she'll reveal the truth. Justice calls and she pursues. From county jails to hallowed courts, she finds truth where they distort. Fearless heart and mind so keen, Sam unravels tangled seams. The truth is buried deep in files. Fairness is what they try to hide, but Sam prevails. She's got your back. With grit and grace she never lacks. Uncover lies and play no games. From jails to halls where verdicts lay. Truth her compass, come what may. Footsteps echo in the night. She chases justice with the light. A warrior for justice for all. She won't stop when she hits a wall. Florida P.I. Sam is her name. Uncover lies and play no games. From jails to halls where verdicts lay. Truth her compass, come what may.
Hello. Oh, let me stop my music. Good evening, everyone. How are you tonight? I think the song is a bop too, Alexis. I like it. I was kind of, doing some chair dancing. Hold on. I can hear myself in my other computer. I hope this is not going to be technical difficulties. There we go. Okay. Hello. I'm here. Susie, I hope that you are feeling better. Hi, Dad. Hold on. There we go. Hi, Barry Adams. Welcome. Hi, C. Morales. Nice to see you guys. You reported for jury duty. I'm so glad. This is part 2. And I want to say thank you to Jenny, who is camping tonight. So she'll be on replay crew. She found a lot of the media clips we're going to be using. And then Alexis helped me put tonight's presentation together. We'll see how I click through everything. But we put together a whole bunch of fun stuff for you guys to look at. So I hope you enjoy it. I'm so glad you guys are here. It's so nice to see you. So it was a big week in the true crime world in terms of information. We definitely went down the rabbit hole, some with Karen Reed, and some of the Brian Kohberger stuff has been released. So I know that everybody has lots of content to engage with this week. But we're going back to the jury room. Next week, I'm excited to tell you, Tanika will be back. And we will be doing part 3 of the jury. So you'll want to make sure that you come back for that one. And there's a piece of this series, I guess, that I'm going to record and upload. And now that I've told you that, I actually have to do it. So there's a whole section on just reasonable doubt, and we've been working on that because it's really, well, for legal geeks, I guess it's really interesting. So there's going to be a little recorded video for that, and then Tanika will be back next Saturday. I believe we're on the same page about the day. And then the Kalief watch party episode 1 is on Wednesday. So if you haven't done it already, there is a link for Patreon. All you have to do is click the link and go over there and join for free. And once you do that, it's free. Once you do that, you'll see the post about Kalief Browder and all of the details and everything for that. And I want to say, hi, Mom. I have a Henry story because Henry did some things last night. Kalief. So you'll see if you go over to Patreon, you follow the link, go to Patreon, join. It's free. You don't have to spend any money. You'll be able to see all the details on the Kalief thing. And then we tested it, and I can do it. It's not exactly a stream. It's going to be more like a Zoom call, except we're doing it through Google. And again, you don't have to do anything special. There'll be a link. You click on it, you join. And while there is a chat feature, I'm going to open a stream on YouTube at the same time, so you guys can chat on YouTube. And then as soon as the episode is over, I'll come over to YouTube and go live so I could talk to you guys about it. So we're going to do that at 7:15 on Wednesday. The episode's about 45 minutes long. Hi, Kathy Smith. Welcome. Good to see you as well. I like your little tulip. So we'll talk about it right after, but we'll talk about it on YouTube. I can't stream it on YouTube, obviously, because of copyright issues, but I want to come over and talk to you guys about it. So I'm not going to have the chat that goes with the watching. I'm not going to have that chat open. Chat on YouTube will be open. It's not perfect, but it's the only way I can figure out how to bring you highly copyrighted content and be able to talk to you about it at the same time. And so we're going to give it a shot for Wednesday. And then I think we're going to have to move to a different night going forward. But I'm working that up. So I'm not really sure right now whether that'll be like Tuesday or Thursday. But I'm looking forward to being able to watch that with you guys. I am purposefully not watching it again prior to. Like, I watched it a couple years ago. It resonated with me. It obviously made a huge impact because I'm still talking about it. So I'm just gonna wait and rewatch with you guys. I'm not gonna rewatch. Hi, Mads. Welcome. So nice to see you. So yeah, we'll put up posts for the scheduling of everything, but the goal is to bring you more stuff and hopefully bring the channel numbers up. So if you want to like this video, that'd be fantastic. I'd love that. So Patreon link, it's free. Thank you to Therapist You Know, who is my first financial supporter on Patreon, and to Leah, who has bought me my first 2 cups of coffee. All the links for everything that we talk about tonight will be in the description by tomorrow. So, and just in case anybody is watching this on the replay, I have no control over how long it takes YouTube to regenerate the chat for replay. So it does come. They say it can take up to 24 hours. So just be aware of that. You can watch right away on replay and not see chat, or you can wait a little bit and watch on replay and see chat. So I wanted to tell you guys what happened with Henry last night. He has decided, I have a big balcony here, as I've talked about these blinds that look like a crazy person lives here. I straighten them, he runs behind them. It's an ongoing, never-ending battle, so at times I try, but it's like, what's the point? So, that's a whole big balcony, he's out there right now. But he got it into his head where he wants to do what cats do and be half in and half out of the house, but at the front door. I don't know why. I do not know why this is the thing now. So normally, I will sit right there with, like, my laptop or whatever, and he will sit with his butt in and his front paws out the door and just kinda check things out, and he'll walk along the breezeway a little bit. But if I lose sight of him and I shut the door and he hears it, he comes back right away. Well, last night, I couldn't see him. He took off right away, and I was like, "Oh, God." So I waited a few minutes, I called for him, he didn't come back. Shut the door hard so he could hear it. He didn't come back. I was like, "Oh, God." So I get up and I go looking for him, and I go down the stairs and into the courtyard, and he's gray, so he's not that easy to see in the dark. He was, like, head to tail, so, like, his head, his tail, the other cat's tail, another cat's head, like, standing next to each other in, like, some kind they weren't even doing the hissing, growling, moaning, meowing bizarreness. The other cat, it was like this cat was a smaller, less fluffy version of him, and they were just, like, so still and not making if you've heard a cat fight before, there was none of that. So I was just, like, super careful, and I walked up and I just was like, "Hey, Henry," and I just grabbed him up. As soon as I did, he flips out. I have never heard the kind of noises that came from that cat last night, ever, like, ever. I've had, cats my entire life. My first cat was with me for 21 years. Henry is not my first cat. I have never, ever heard anything like what I heard. I can't even begin to describe it to you. It was crazy. So I bring him back in, shut the door. I'm like, "Okay, we're all done with that now. We're all done. We're all done." And 10 minutes later, he wants to go right back out there. I'm like, "No." He is dating Mads. I agree 100%. I think he's dating. I think he's dating. And that cat, what little bit I saw of it, didn't look like a stray. I mean, it looked like a smaller, less fluffy version of Henry. It was weird. So, I'm not gonna be letting him do that anymore. Oh, speak of the devil. Hello, sir. All right, so we're going on a journey to talk with the jurors. Maybe he does have a type. You know, I was wondering, um, he never like, I don't know that he thinks he's a cat. Like, I don't know if he knows he's a cat because he's never since I adopted him, he was with his original litter. He was the only boy out of all girls. But since then, he's come face to face with 2 dogs, but never ever another cat to my knowledge. And he won't react like on this if there's an animal on screen, either a cat or a dog, he just won't react to that. Sometimes if you hear if a video's got a kitten mewing, I've, like, tried putting that on to see if I get any reaction, and all he does is, like, his ears go kind of sideways like he's alarmed. So I'm not sure he even knows. Does he know he's a cat? I I don't I honestly don't know. So, alright. That's how Henry is, and, his fur's growing back too, so that's exciting. Alright, let's go and get started with tonight's jury duty. We've got some fun, um, topics to explore, with you guys. We are going to be talking about all things juries. Well, not all things, because next week is going to be, like I said, part it'll actually be part 4, and part 3 of this will be recorded. So, when I was thinking about this, I was wondering, what are the expectations from a jury? I understand that the people watching this may be biased because they're interested in true crime. Hey, Route Irish, welcome. Nice to see you, sir. Um, but I'm wondering, as I sit and through jury selection, I have questions about their expectations. And I wonder if the impact of having watched, not necessarily that they're true crime followers, right? Because they're very different genres when you have the scripted Law and Order or CSI versus Dateline, and then on further down the rabbit hole into YouTube, right? I feel like there's levels to your true crime interest. And so if CSI and Law and Order are 0, then, you put YouTube somewhere in the 3, like with podcasts and stuff. And because not everybody, believe it or not everyone are trial watchers. Some people just don't care. My friends, they do not care. They put the streams on for me to get my watch time up. They really don't care. So I was wondering, does the information that a regular person who is not a true crime junkie does, like having watched Law and Order or CSI or even the news, does that impact what they expect from a trial, from a case? Do they now expect that there has to be DNA? Do they expect motive? Because motive doesn't have to be proven. But I didn't know that until I took criminal law somewhere along the way. I always thought based on TV and, um, yeah, based on TV that and movies that you had to prove motive. You don't have to prove motive. I think people wanna hear a motive, but you don't have to prove it. Someone in, Child TV Live's chat said they hated hearing all the foundational stuff. They don't care about people's credentials and experience, like why they're there testifying, which I find to be odd because if I were a juror, it would matter to me what the people who are testifying, what their backgrounds were, right? I mean, shouldn't that matter? It's in the jury instructions whether or not, um, what weight and credibility you give to a witness. So, like, don't you care to some degree whether somebody got uh, where their expertise came from? And then the other thing that I thought, I think is really interesting, Chris had texted me from Trial TV Live this week when the cell phone expert went on, during the Monica Simonelli trial that they're watching, and I'm like, "Yay!" I'm so excited, right? So I go over there and people are like, "Oh my god, this is so boring." I'm like, "But how can it be boring? Because this is literally everything." And this guy is telling you that these people had these conversations, 5,000 messages exchanged in a certain period of time, and this is their location. And that matters. So is it that people are zoning out on it because they don't quite understand it? But we, as in people, as in me, I guess, I am well aware that it matters terribly that our case is often, you know, win or lose based off the cell phones and the location data. My August trial, case in point. One kid, not guilty, no phone, doesn't put him there. He doesn't show up on any surveillance camera. He's got no phone. They have no phone for him. There's nothing. The other kid, phone and stuff that goes with phone. And so he gets convicted. I don't know. What do you guys think? I would like to hear what you have to say. Barry Adams. Let me go back over here to StreamYard. Barry, I grappled with motive not being mandatory, but someone told me that motive is evidence of intent. It's good to have, but there's more than one way to prove intent. Okay. Okay. Mad says credentials are important. Cracker Jack box degrees aren't reliable. Yeah. I mean, you would think so, but we're gonna look at some stuff tonight that might have you questioning, right? So yeah, I mean, on Alexis is right. On a television show, everything is supposed to be all nice and done within 45 minutes. So there's no room for foundation. So maybe jurors don't expect that. But so the stuff that I have prepared for you tonight is that we are going to take a quick, well, a quickish peek at the juries for the Alec Murdaugh trial in South Carolina, which I think was now 2 years ago, maybe 3. It's been a minute. And Karen Reed's first trial. Um, Everybody who is a true crime lover knows that Karen Reed's second trial is coming up on April 1. And there's been all kinds of fun stuff coming out of there. Kathy Smith says phone evidence is so important. Some witnesses break it down better than others. Yeah, you're right. There are definite, I think, but the same is true for DNA though, too, right? Like, or any of the witnesses. The one that testified in the Monica Seminelli trial this week, I thought he's a nice looking guy. He spoke in regular language. He had demonstratives. I thought he was a good witness, you know? I don't know. Barry, I don't think Judge Bev can get out of her Zanny's haste by 4-1 with all the motions and dramas that have to get cleaned up so quickly. I mean, drama is an understatement. So, for let me just give a super quick breakdown of Murdaugh and Reed for anyone who is here because they are my friend or family and they are not 100% sure what I'm talking about. Alec Murdaugh was a prominent lawyer in the Low Country in South Carolina, part of a legal dynasty. He was a part-time prosecutor. He was a whole lot of things, and his wife Maggie and his son Paul were murdered on their property called Moselle, and it took nearly a year for the state of South Carolina to indict Alec Murdaugh. What they did, and the case against him is fascinating. They made an HBO documentary. There's documentaries like on all the channels. I started following it really early on, and that trial for me, even doing what I do for a living, that trial was eye-opening, especially when it comes to the data and stuff like that that we're gonna talk about. So, Alec has since been convicted of the murders of Paul and Maggie, and also he will never, ever, ever get out because he's been convicted on, a whole bunch of federal financial crimes because he was stealing money, even though he's a lawyer. Lawyers do that. Karen Reed, was dating a police officer, a Boston police officer by the name of John O'Keefe. John O'Keefe lived in a suburb of Boston called Canton, Massachusetts. Judge Beverly Cannoni is the judge in Karen Reed's case. Karen Reed's case ended in a mistrial. It is the state's contention that Karen hit John O'Keefe with her Lexus SUV and that a broken taillight is proof of that. And John O'Keefe was hit by Karen Reed, which broke her taillight, which knocked him to the ground where he froze to death. Or not. The case has gotten a lot of national media attention. The YouTube crime community has been very, very interested and involved in it. So, she's getting ready to go back for retrial, and we've got some things about their jury to compare with Alec Murdaugh's jury. Route Irish. I don't understand why Karen Reed is so popular. Why? I don't know. Honestly, I paid no attention to it until the trial came on, and we're gonna look at some of the things that I think are fascinating about the case. I don't think it's that Karen Reed is such a fascinating person. So, when we were planning out these jury episodes to bring you, it popped into my mind that I wanted to do some jury comparisons. So, we're gonna look through, and maybe, Route Irish, maybe that will, maybe some of what I present to you guys tonight will answer that question. Um, and maybe it's just media, but I think as a person who works in the legal field, I find that case really fascinating, really fascinating. So, after the Murdaugh case, the jurors kind of went on a media tour in some ways. Um, and then in Karen Reed, one juror has recently given an interview, but several jurors gave affidavits to defense attorneys after the fact. And so that's going to be covered in my separate recorded interview. Let's see. Barry says it's the bias in multiple concurrent state and federal investigations. For him, that's the appeal. If I could say why is cool. Yeah, I mean, it's just that it's not playing out the way it should, I guess. And we'll see why, right? Let's just sort of get into onto to where we are, to where we're going to start with this. Um, so we're going to start with we're not going to watch entire interviews. We're going to watch clips from juror interviews comparing different things about the cases. Hopefully this will make sense. So, in my opinion, as I saw this one juror who has come out from the Karen Reed case, he seemed not real bright. So he is the only glimpse we have into this case that ended in a mistrial. Um, there's been one other juror, I believe, who gave a verbal but not recorded interview. The jurors on Alec Murdaugh's case, they were professional, respectful. They seemed to they had manners. They seemed to understand the importance of their jobs. They prayed together. They took their duty very seriously. In a 6-week trial, I think it was 6 weeks, it only took a few hours for them to come to a verdict. It didn't even take 3 hours, which is really interesting because there was a lot of very detailed information. Whereas in Karen Reed's case, um, the jury deliberated for days and could not come to a unanimous verdict. We found out later they had on 2 counts, but not on or 2 charges and not on the third. And there may have been some misinformation with the jury instructions. So we're going to look at that. So what I want to know, if you guys were picked for a jury right now, would you want to be able to take notes or no? Does it matter to you whether or not you can take notes? Barry says we couldn't get detailed information because it doesn't exist. We're going to look at that too, Barry. And he's referring to the investigation in the Karen Reed case, which is it's just something else, or non-existent. So Kathy Smith says yes, she would want to take jury notes. Mad says yes. Okay, so when the judge gives you a jury instruction that says, well, if what you remember was said is different from what you write down, so you should go by what you remember somebody being said. To me, that's kind of the opposite, right? Because if I've written it down, that's probably way more correct than assuming that I actually remember something somebody said. And that's an issue, apparently. So Barry says, I don't know. I wouldn't know what is going to be important to me at the deliberation room until I'm in there. You'd be the guy who's taking a transcription. So that's part of the issue, right? Is some judges feel like what will happen is that you'll get so engrossed in your note taking and want it to be perfect, you will not listen to everything that's being said. Like it will move on without you. Which is a valid point. But I don't know. I think that people learn in such different ways that maybe it ought to be offered as a choice. I feel like people who know they aren't good note takers just won't take notes. And those of us who feel like we would like to have them would. So, um I don't know. I don't know. I don't know how, I think I would like to be given the choice. Um Because I can't remember anything. We know this, right? From watching me, we know this. So, in Massachusetts, the court has discretion to make written notes concerning testimony and other evidence. But the judge shall precede the announcement of permission to make notes with appropriate guidelines. And then once the verdict is recorded, the notes will be destroyed at the direction of the trial judge. Barry says, I'd rather have the choice. Better note takers who aren't transcriptionists would be very helpful. I agree. But also, the Massachusetts rule says that jurors may also be granted permission by the trial judge to make notes during summation by counsel and during the judge's instruction to the jury on the laws. And I guess I hadn't thought about it in terms of taking notes during, like, you're told that opening and closing are not evidence. But the testimony, oh my God, no, you have food. Do not bite me. The testimony and the credibility of it is up to you. So do you say, okay, you can't have notes for opening and for the initial instructions to the jury, but you can then for all the rest of the trial, but it depends on how I feel. If me, the judge, is going to let you take them during summation and my instructions to you. I don't know. That sounds a little messy. Kathy Smith says, you're absolutely right. I do better when I listen and write things down. It anchors me to be, even if I never go back and look at it again, it keeps my mind from wandering. So, and if I don't catch something, I just put a big question mark. Barry Adams says, can we just have the court dump the transcript into Chat GPT and just tell us what we need to know? I think that might be a constitutional problem. So in Karen Reed's case, they were allowed to take notes, which is interesting because we had a very terrible, in my opinion, investigation. In the Murdaugh case, people have been asking, oh my God, or commenting on, the jurors weren't allowed to take notes. The jurors weren't allowed to take notes. So one of the jurors said, we were locked in a room when we weren't in the courtroom. I mean, so it was a weight on us. We had to make sure it was right. And there was also always a question about, oh, they never had notebooks. They never took notes. We were not allowed to take notebooks out, but we had them in the back. So as soon as we ran back, if there was something I had a question on or anyone else who had a notebook, that I think there's a typo there, we wrote it down. And every time it was answered, we would mark through it. And that's how we kept up with everything and evidence and everything. So still, that's a lot. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. Does anyone other than Kathy Smith and Mads and Barry have an opinion on whether they'd like to take notes if they were a juror? No, yes, no. Okay. ChatGPT could be very problematic, you know, because they might not get it right. And one of the things that the appellate courts have to be able to, hi, I rescue dogs. You would need to take notes. Thank you. I don't think that AI, I don't think we're there yet. You know, court reporters and transcriptionists are extremely important. Now, what I would say is before I would see Chat GPT enter the chat, if you will, I would actually not be surprised if they could maybe watch back parts of the testimony because it's streamed on YouTube. I don't know. It's hard to say, right? So, the next piece is about site visits. Do you think that going on a site visit to the scene of a crime would be helpful to you, even if it's years later? I would like to know that. Alexis would also like the option to take notes. Barry, what's more biased, the conclusion AI wants to draw me to or the lens through which I receive the evidence could be a thing one day? You're right, Barry. It could be. I mean, no one really knows what direction we're going in, right? With the AI and the chat GPT stuff. So we'll see. I mean, it does prove to be helpful on a number of things, but it's not always correct. And I know some lawyers who relied upon it and maybe should not have. You should, if you're going to use chat GPT or any other form of it, make sure you edit it. So on the first day of Karen Reed's, or I'm sorry, the first Friday of testimony in the Karen Reed trial, the jurors took a bus from the courthouse to the site of 34 Fairview Road, which is where John O'Keefe died. They were allowed to get out of the bus and look at Karen Reed's car, which had been parked right in front of 34 Fairview. Except that there's an issue here. Seeing the scene helps the visual part of the brain put it together. On site visits, yeah, Mads, I agree. Barry, that's funny. 12 Angry Men gets remade. 2050 is 12 angry algorithms. Yeah, exactly. Oh, thank you, Kathy Smith, for buying me a coffee. I appreciate you. Thank you so much for that. So, okay, yeah, jury view. Would you want to go visit the crime scene? Anyone? Anyone? Let's take a look at what one of the jurors in Karen Reed has to say. Barry says, I can see why field trips might have been helpful, but I feel like too many things could go sideways. The risk doesn't go away. So there would have to be a really, really compelling reason that the jury actually needs to go there. Okay. All right. Well, let's take a look at what some jurors had to say. Let's see if I can manage this to share with you guys.
Lexus missing a taillight with some scratches on the right side, parked near 34 Fairview Road in Canton. Cameras weren't allowed to film jurors as they visited the home where Boston police officer John O'Keefe's body was found more than 2 years ago. But Assistant District Attorney Adam Lally told the panel in court to look at the vehicle carefully.
And specifically, I'm going to ask you to take note of sort of the center console in the front driver's compartment of that vehicle.
The defense adding it's an opportunity to gain perspective.
You've heard about a flagpole, a fire hydrant, a house. We're going to ask you to take special note of where those are in relation to other things physically at the scene.
Jurors are allowed to use what they saw in deliberations down the road to reach a verdict.
So that was the first week. That was a Friday, the first week of testimony. And we're going to see here in the next one, let me close that. We're going to see here in the next one what the juror, our juror from Karen Reed has to say about it, because it's pretty interesting. Let's take a look here. Oh, shared screen. Learning the technology, you guys. learning the technology. Let's see. I'm gonna make sure I get. When I pull these up on StreamYard, they're in exactly the opposite order I expect them to be.
Company called ARCA that testified, 2 doctors, and they were the last 2 witnesses to go. And in order to, they both testified.
I think that is, wait, I think that's the wrong clip, you guys. And I just went through that. I think that's the wrong one. We just went through this. I don't know where this one keeps disappearing to. We just looked at it. It's really, ugh. Hold on. I'm so sorry. Give me one moment. One moment, please. See if I can figure out what I did. Yeah, I don't know why this is coming up. Give me 1 second and let me chat amongst yourselves. Let me see something. Oh, that one, Alexis, where you are right now. That's the one. Okay. I got it. I got it. I got it. Okay. Sorry, guys. That one has been tricky. I don't know why. Because nothing is ever perfect, right? Here we go. Here we go.
Road, obviously, on like the first week of the trial, right?
That's correct.
What were your thoughts when you saw 34 Fairview Road and the car parked outside, you know, in the lawn? What did you think of the whole scene there?
It was surreal. I think it was very interesting to be able to see the atmosphere. It would have been nicer to see it in a little bit more with some snow, just to see what would that look like. But we were trying to observe the area and the environment at the time.
Well, funny you should mention that. So this is people love to do this. This is what somebody just drove by like an hour or two ago, 34 Fairview Road. And this is the perspective that 7 or 8 of the witnesses would have seen. And then John's body, of course, was later found right about here. Okay. And let me just ask you something right now, right? So they want us, the prosecution contends and the prosecution witnesses contend. I believe it was Matthew McCabe, Jennifer McCabe, Julie Nagel, Sarah Levinson, Brian Higgins, and 2 other, Caitlin Albert and Tristan Morris. They all drove directly by this spot while it was snowing at like between 1 and 2 in the morning. Every single one of them says that they didn't see a body on the front lawn right there. If you had seen this visual during the trial, would that have made it harder to believe that they could, if a body was there, that they wouldn't have seen it?
Yeah, I mean, it was very interesting because there were no pictures of what the body looked like at the time, right? So nobody took pictures of before they moved the body or moved the patient. We don't know what it really looked like, but looking at that, it's kind of hard to believe you can't see anything. But again, it's hard to say that you couldn't see it, and it's also hard to say that you could. I mean, it's all speculation in that respect, but it'd be hard, somebody who's that large, to not be able to see something there.
Right.
Okay. Does anybody else feel like maybe they wouldn't want Ronnie to be on their jury? Just a question. Because he kind of, I find him to be kind of concerning. It's also interesting that they did not make any effort to, they parked Karen Reed's Lexus on the street, but it's not contended that she hit him on the street, I don't think. They didn't take any photographs of where they found this Boston cop dead on the lawn of another cop's house. No photos of that. Or if there were, they weren't shown. So that's like, I'm that worries me for the future of, well, that just worries me in general, quite honestly. Not only did law enforcement, yeah, the whole investigation was a hot mess. Exactly. And Kathy Smith, right. So you need to stop and think, right? What he just said, that trial was in April. It would have been nice to see it with some snow. Okay. I get the point about having photographs. That should have been done. Why that wasn't done is so far beyond my comprehension. I don't even know. But yeah, that Ronnie the juror, we're going to hear some more from him. So on the next clip that I have for you is where the Murdaugh jury got to go out and see Moselle. And Moselle was the estate in South Carolina, a hunting camp, I guess is what you'd call it. It's 1,800 acres. And that, I think, as a person watching that trial and not just as a juror, that was really instructive for me. Did any of you guys watch the Murdaugh trial? And did you think that, because they filmed it for us to see, so did any of you think that was useful? Or I mean, I thought it was. Let me find the right one. I think it's this. I think it's this one. Yeah, I think it's this one. All right, let's try. Let's see.
In the room. You took a vote.
It was.
Nope, that is not the right one. That is not the right one. Oh my gosh. You guys, I swear, I did organize this ahead of time. It just decided that it's not going to cooperate. Here we go. I think this is right. Yes, this is the right one. Oh. It would help if I shared it with you. Oh, you gotta love the technology. You gotta love the technology. All right, here we go. It's there. All right, here, let's try this again. Here we go.
Not guilty and why?
So again, like I said earlier, I waited until the end to make my decision. But whenever I'm at the end and I'm, you know, thinking about all this evidence, there was parts that I noticed at the Moselle property that, you know, were evident to me that solidified my answer of guilty. There was a lot of question about. So there was a lot of questioning about the second shot to Paul. And to me, the way that it was described and the way that it was portrayed, it just didn't look right. But what did make sense to me, and something that I'd made note of before we went to the Moselle property, because I didn't know that we were going to the Moselle property, but I was curious, is that, for one, I think that he would have been looking at Paul. And whenever we get out there, it's a very tight room. And there is about a 1 to 1.5 inch threshold at the base of that door. I think if he...
Let me just stop for 1 second here. Who would you rather have on your jury? Ronnie, the juror, or James, the juror? Well, let me know.
Looking at Paul, and he's just shot a buckshot, which if you're, you know, if you're not firm, it can rock you pretty good. I think he could have been unbalanced, and I think he could have tripped over that threshold, and that puts him on the ground shooting upward as Paul's coming out. And I think that makes sense to me for the angle of the shot.
I mean, I know who I would prefer to have on my jury, but you guys tell me. Yeah, this was their weekend house. Yeah, Barry, that kind of goes to his motive though, right? Yeah, Alexis, I mean, I think that I would 100%, the drone shots don't help, right? This came down to timing on so many things, and we're going to see that as we kind of go along through tonight. Yeah, James, right? It has to be James. Everybody vote James. It has to be James. If you have Ronnie, we're not done with Ronnie, guys. I've got more. There's more. There's more. All right, let me carry on here and see what we have up for you next. Okay. The evidence collection and investigation in both of these cases. So, the investigation in Murdaugh's case went to SLED. That's the South Carolina Law Enforcement Division. Here in Florida, we have the FDLE, Florida Department of Law Enforcement. It's the state police. And in Karen Reed's case, they also went to the state police because the murder happened in Canton on the lawn of a Canton police officer. The victim was a Boston cop. Boston declined to investigate, which is interesting. So that too went to the state police. So we're going to have the defense is going to criticize both investigations, right? They have to. That's part of their thing. But what's interesting is the way in which these investigations were conducted. So I'm going to take you through a quick clip here about SLED's the defense in Dick Harpootlian and all asking questions during Murdaugh's trial about SLED, trying to impeach SLED, if you will. And then I'm going to show you something from the Karen Reed trial. So let's take a look at this. Okay. See, I think I'm closing tabs and I'm not really sure. Let me see where that one went. Why are these backwards, you guys? I mean, come on. Here we go. I found it. I found it.
Continues with one of Alex's old friends and colleagues testifying, saying that he didn't actually know Alec at all after his alleged financial crimes came out. And we saw a total of 5 witnesses take the stand today.
Fox Carolina's Grace Runkel live in Walterboro. She joins us now to break down their testimonies.
Well, throughout this entire trial, the defense has really taken any chance they've gotten to attack the integrity of SLED's investigation of the crime scene at Moselle the night of June 7th, 2021. And that continued today as their crime scene reconstruction expert took the stand. He says he sees holes in their investigation.
What effort, if any, was made to take fingerprints at the scene?
None that I observed.
They do an adequate job.
I don't believe so.
What?
I don't believe so.
Okay. And that's your expert opinion?
Correct.
Okay.
That much more could have been done.
Kenneth Xerxes has worked in the field of forensics for decades, and the defense argues what he says means investigators could have missed evidence that would point to the actual killer. And we also heard from the defense's cellular forensics expert. He testified that Maggie's phone screen did not light up the night of June 7th when Murdaugh drove by the spot where it was eventually found on the way to his mom's, arguing that it doesn't make sense that he was the one who...
Okay, so let's just think about this for just a teensy tiny minute, and I will close that one out. The deaths of Maggie and Paul occurred outside at the kennels. There was a lot of blood and it was raining, and I believe Maggie had been hosing down the kennels. So I'm not sure what you would have taken fingerprints of at the scene. That makes absolutely zero sense to me. And really, the only items that they tried to that they tried to say, oh, SLED was sloppy on, was somebody from law enforcement had to stepped in water and blood. They had no choice. The space was so tiny to get Paul's body. They knew that was going to happen. They had no choice. And they covered Paul's body with a sheet to protect it from the rain. And they missed one casing, which an expert later found. And their quarrel was they thought that SLED should have looked for other people who have committed this crime. But it took them nearly a year to indict Murdaugh. Whereas in comparison, on the Karen Reed investigation, we have Trooper Paul from the state police who decided within 16 hours that it was Karen Reed who had done this. And we've already heard that there were no photos. So let's just see. Let's see what the next little bit here has to say about how that investigation was run, because I want you to tell me which is the bigger problem, right? Whether it's SLED not finding fingerprints at a rainy outdoor scene when I'm not even sure where you would have taken a fingerprint from, or what happens here in this next little bit. If I can find it. Let's see. I don't have a say over what my tabs are named. Why can I not find this one? Okay, got it. Got it. Sorry, guys. Got it.
Does it appear anywhere from that vantage point that there's evidence tape that's ever been put on that bag, that has ever been secured?
I wouldn't be able to tell you that.
Well, one of the ways that you can tell that evidence tape has been put on an item is because when the evidence tape is placed on it, it's completely sealed.
Let me just stop here for a moment. Does anyone here think that the proper method of collecting DNA would be to put it in red plastic solo cups? Anyone? Can I get an answer? Anyone? Collect DNA? Do we do that in red plastic solo cups and then into a grocery bag? Do we do that? Is that not a problem? Is that not I mean, here's the thing, like, I sort of think that's I think that's a problem. In Alec Murdaugh's case, okay, somebody had to step in blood and water, and that was noted. Okay, like it was unavoidable. They tried to figure it out, they couldn't. But they collected this man's DNA in solo cups. They collected the snow and put it in solo cups and put it in a grocery bag.
And if in fact that seal is ever broken, it's not torn off, it's cut.
Here he's asking the witness on the stand, have you ever used evidence tape? He's asking this of a person that investigated this case.
And there's initials put on, correct?
Objection.
Sustained.
Have you ever used evidence tape before? To seal anything?
I'm sure I have. I don't recall off the top of my head.
How long have you been a detective? I'm sorry, how long were you a detective when you were a detective?
I was a detective for 11 months as a sergeant, and then I was a detective for 15 months back in 2011, 12.
And in your experience, and how long have you been a police officer?
Over 24 years.
Does that make anyone else want to scream loudly?
So in your 24 years of experience and over a year as a detective, you can't remember if you've ever used evidence sealing tape?
As I said, I'm sure I have. I just can't recall one off the top of my head.
When, if you can recall using it at all, isn't the protocol that when evidence sealing tape is used to seal an item of evidence, when it's removed, it's not torn off, it's cut, and then
Guys, gals, what is that? You are going to accuse someone of unaliving their boyfriend and bring her to trial for that, ruin her life. And the evidence was collected in red Solo cups. By the way in which they got to some of that evidence was by using a snow blower or a leaf blower to excavate. So they blew the snow so they could see what was under the snow. Yeah, Barry Adams, exactly. So, like, inner office envelopes, you put your name with a Sharpie on it if you dealt with it. Like, if you vote by mail, right? You sign across the little thingy. How do you exist in law enforcement for 24 years? How do you make rank as a sergeant and you do not ever use evidence tape? Does that seem okay to you guys? Remember, I come here and I talk about this stuff because I'm just interested in trying to teach you the process from sort of the back end of things, right? The side that you do not see. You get to see law enforcement investigation to some extent. I get to see more of it. The jurors see less of it. But what is the defense to do if I'm putting someone on, if one of my clients has been charged and they're like, "Yep, we got you. Here's how we collected DNA from the scene in a red Solo cup." I mean, Judge Bev should have. So the judge is Beverly Canoni. What would you have had her do? Step in, Kathy. Where should she have? I feel like there's a lot of things that Judge Canoni should have done, but I'm interested in what you mean that she should have stepped in. Do you mean that she should have put an end to that testimony, or she should have said, "This is ridiculous and we need to be done," because we know that we have so far beyond that now. I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy. I don't understand how this is okay. So, okay, Barry, we had a DUI wreck into a stone wall, and when they went to the ER to get their collarbone reset and then jail, our town collected evidence and they used paper bags that had lines to fill in. Like inner office envelopes, you put your name on a Sharpie if you dealt with it and signing the seal. Okay. Okay, so I have less issue with the paper bags because we do know that that's a thing. But I'm sorry, red Solo cups. You guys, come on. This is ridiculous. So, okay, you're in Connecticut and it says, well, here, look. Barry is saying, look, cops are small and local. They make the rookie evidence collector custodian because that's the most boring. Okay, but I don't think so. These are state police, though. I have an issue with this. Kathy Smith to throw the evidence out. Well, it shouldn't have been let in the first place, and that should have been decided pre-trial at a motion to eliminate. But we already know. Oh my God, you guys! I had no idea. Alexis found this fun fact today. So, it appears to the world. It appears to me, and I'm not the only one, because I've watched a lot of YouTube creators, but it appears to me as though Judge Beverly Canoni is the most prosecution biased judge I have ever seen do anything ever, ever, ever. Like ever. It can't get any crazier. And we're going to look at that in just a second. But we learned today that she used to be a defense attorney. That blew my mind. the most prosecutorial biased judge I have ever seen used to be a criminal defense attorney. That's just insane. That's just insane to me. I don't exactly, Kathy Smith. So Barry, you're talking about local cops versus state police. And I think that that's, you know, that's a real issue that is addressed in the Karen Reed case. But the state police should have done better. I mean, the fact that the state police were called and that this was their standard is insane. That makes absolutely zero sense to me. I don't get that. And in Murdaugh, they did the same thing. They did not have, because Murdaugh was Murdaugh and Colleton County was so small, and they brought in the state police, and then they tried to take apart the state police, which I went back in reviewing all the stuff that we wanted to put together for you guys. I went and looked, right, to see what the complaints were about SLED. And they're nothing. They didn't do anything egregious. I would have an issue if I was on trial for unaliving my boyfriend and the evidence had been collected by a snowblower, leaf blower, I always get it mixed up, solo cups, and paper grocery bags taken from a neighbor. I'm just saying, I have some standards. I have some standards that I would like them to meet if I were going to be charged with a crime like that. You know, it's just a thought, really. So let's see. I have another clip for you. I think this is the one. Let me see. Give me a second. Okay, it's this one. All right, I'll go back a little bit. Sorry, I'm on it. I swear I'm on it. Here we go. Nope. When I go to look at these, it's crazy because they put them in their own order. And it's not the order I selected things to be in. So that's really frustrating. Okay, I think it's this one.
And those texts.
It was very surprising. It was very unprofessional. And at that point, most likely we would discredit or not consider his testimony as strong.
Another
Okay, so
surprising. It was very
let me give you
did
some
resonate
context.
with you. One being
based on the evidence that was provided.
Alexis, is this clip where am I in the right one? And is this do you know if I'm in the right place? So we're talking to Ronnie again. And okay. So this trooper Proctor, who was reviewing Karen Reed's cell phone, Trooper Proctor had decided 16 hours into this investigation that Karen Reed was the person who was guilty. And so his phone, his text messages are brought into evidence in this case. And on the witness stand, he admitted to writing texts calling Karen Reed a babe, a nutbag, having no ass, disclosing sensitive medical information regarding her, shared that he was searching her phone and hadn't found any nudes yet. He also shared investigative details such as the name of the victim, the name of Karen Reed, and that the victim was found on the lawn of fellow Boston cop within this group text of his high school buddies. Okay? This is insane, right? So is this the clip I need to be at here? Let's just go ahead and open it instead of doing it from the other way. Nope. We already did that one. I'm sorry. I knew this would come with some technical difficulties. We did try. Okay, let's see. Let's get rid of that. Is I in the wrong one? Is it this one? Here. Let's try this. I have so many. Yeah, I can't believe this was a police officer. Yeah, we have more Ronnie in a different outfit on a different day with a different investigator or a different journalist, sorry. So let me see. Hopefully it's this one. Yes, this should be the right one. This should be the right one. Gotta love technology, right? We love it. Do we love it? Sometimes. Where did you put that? There we go. We got Ronnie. We got some more Ronnie for you. I know you're excited. I know you're excited.
Provided to us and that we could actually consider.
At the time, there were a couple things during the trial that were a huge deal as it happened on the outset. And I'm wondering, did it resonate with you? One being the testimony of Michael Proctor, the lead investigator, and those texts.
It was very surprising. It was very unprofessional. And at that point, most likely we would discredit or not consider his testimony as strong.
Another big thing was this Google search. How's long to die in the cold?
We didn't believe that there was enough evidence or expertise to kind of indicate that it was reliable. It did not appear, at least to myself, that she intended to commit murder. The other piece, which was the leaving a scene of an accident, also did not appear very clear, and therefore everybody voted for those two charges as not guilty. That second charge, that was the one that was very debated in terms of whether ultimately she did it, became questionable. And now that is where there was reasonable doubt in some minds. Unfortunately, we didn't get clarification early on that we could look at each charge individually and independently of each other. If we had done that, then I don't know where we would be or if we would be talking today.
Do you think there was...
So, how does that make you feel? Did any of what he just said make sense at all? Did that make sense? Are you concerned? First of all, his fashion choices, I feel like he tried to do what Murdaugh jurors did and didn't pull it off. But he's enjoying his, 15 seconds of fame. I don't know. I think that Ronnie is terrifying. Ronnie terrifies me more than some of the defendants. So it's like he said he would discredit Proctor's testimony, but I feel like, and I discussed this with Alexis earlier today, that I don't think that he's saying they discredited his testimony in terms of the evidence, but they discredited him in terms of his text messages. And I don't know if I'm saying that in a way that makes any sense whatsoever, but I also think his answer did not make any sense whatsoever. That this trooper's text messages came into this trial. I understand it's to show bias, I guess, against Karen and just how horrible this investigation was. But also, it would have been used for impeachment, right? Which is to say, you're not credible. But then they believed in the investigation enough to say, I don't know how to fix that. I don't know how to say that properly. Was Ronnie the only juror who was interviewed? He is the only one that has come out thus far on television. I do believe he's sort of looking for his 15 minutes. He's not very bright. I mean, I don't think he's very bright. He kind of scares me. One other read juror gave a audio but not recorded interview. Like, we just have literally like a statement from her. So in this interview with this YouTube person, this investigative journalist named Aiden Carney, aka Turtle Boy. Don't even begin. I saw one of you ask in the chat. I don't even know. I don't even know the whole. That's like a whole sideshow that is going on with the Karen Reed situation. Juror Ronnie gave his interview to Aiden Carney, aka Turtle Boy. It was a 3-hour interview. I've been told by several people, don't watch it. I watched Peter Trago's full relevant clips, and yeah, I think he did a really good job, and I'm grateful for him for giving the summary. So Ronnie says that testimony involving the allegations of a conspiracy, in other words, that these Canton cops and the state police sort of conspired to set Karen Reed up. There is a train of thought that John O'Keefe may or may not have gotten into a fight with some of the high school buddies of the Canton cop whose lawn he was found on, and that he was beat up and then maybe bitten by a dog and then left to die in the cold, and that Karen Reed's taillight was cracked or broken or anything way before this happened, because you can see her back up and hit a traverse on video at a different place before this happens. I mean, the whole thing, it's scary. It should terrify you. And I understand, Barry, that you weren't interested in. Yeah, I know. I did watch Peter's whole thing. I am irate and still haven't found anything new. But I'm trying to sort of compare the two juries. I just thought it was a good comparison that we have Ronnie, the juror, versus the Murdaugh jurors, because these were both really high profile cases, that they involved state police investigations. They both involved using car and phone data, evidence collection. Like, I tried to find these points of comparison for you. So in Karen Reed's trial, some experts came on and testified. They're from ARCA, which is like they were hired by the FBI as crash reconstructionists. The jury was not allowed to know that the FBI was who engaged ARCA. Okay, so their testimony was presented, but it didn't say whether the defense or the prosecution hired them. And apparently the internet loved them. I missed their testimony. Some of the female YouTubers refer to them as the crash daddies. But Ronnie says that he dismissed ARCA's expert testimony because the jurors determined that ARCA could have been paid for by Karen Reed's car insurance company to steer the jury in the wrong direction. He believes that if they had been told that the FBI had hired the ARCA experts and were investigating the investigation, then the jury would have been much more inclined to acquit Karen Reed. Hold on. I know, you guys, I know. It's like I'm trying to sort of give you points of comparison here. A wild conspiracy, Barry, the one that they set up Karen Reed to take the fall, or that John O'Keefe got beat up and then dog bitten and left. At this point, you guys, I don't even know. I don't even know. Hold on, I lost my place where I'm supposed to be looking for my clip. Nope, pause.
a company called Arca that testified, 2 doctors, and they were the last 2 witnesses to go. And in order to, they both testified that, according to the physics, the science and the physics, the injuries to John O'Keefe are not consistent with being hit by a car, and the damage to the vehicle is not consistent with hitting a pedestrian. And so those guys are, doctors, PhDs, they do this for a living, etc. And in order,
These are experts. They are PhDs. They do this for a living.
to find Karen Reed guilty of manslaughter, you have to listen to the ARCA experts and say, I don't believe them. So how did 8 jurors reach the conclusion that those guys didn't know what they were talking about?
It was as a direct result of Karen was there at that time, and John was there at the time, and it was believed that John died there, therefore, right, at that location, and therefore it seemed like, and everybody, all the witnesses were suggesting that he was never inside the house, and as a direct result, the assumption, or if you connected the dots based on the evidence that was provided to us, it seemed like there was some sort of collision with the car, and therefore there was damages to the vehicle. And with the damages to the vehicle, and that both individuals were there and present, that the cause must have been, or somehow, some sort of involvement by Miss Reed. So that was how they all arrived at.
But how did they reconcile? Was the ARCA testimony brought up by the people that thought that she was not guilty? Did they? I'm sure somebody in that room must have said, but these experts are telling us that that's not possible. And what was the answer to that? Like, did people say that these guys are bullshit artists, that they're fake doctors? Like, what was the reason not to believe them?
I think the major rebuttal was, we don't know. And that was the other thing. It was very ambiguous on why these individuals were testifying. And so there was a question in the group on their essential integrity, in terms of, were they there as a direct result of somebody else trying to steer us in a different direction and confuse the jury. So it wasn't sure.
Okay. Do we have any thoughts on Juror Ronnie's interpretation of the ARCA expert testimony? Are you guys, I don't care if you don't want to watch the Karen Reed trial. I don't blame you. I don't care if you don't want to be involved in the drama. That's fine. I'm not following all the drama. I had to bring this to you because I'm so sorry. Because this is outrageous. This, amongst many, many other things in the entire scheme of the prosecution of Karen Reed for the death of John O'Keefe. There's a lot, right? There's a lot to be upset about. However, hi, Scotty. Hi, Scotty. In what way is expert testimony used to confuse a jury? So there's a rule of evidence, right? That evidence cannot be presented if the intent of it is to confuse the jury. I don't know. I can't. Hi, Scotty. Hi. I'm struggling with Ronnie as being my juror, right? Credible witness is trying to confuse the jury. Juror Ronnie has never met Occam's razor in his life. Did you hear that? They thought she was guilty because she had the car. She was driving the car. John was there. Karen plus John, Karen car, John person, plus equals, she did it? She did it? Can somebody please explain this to me, because I cannot wrap my brain around it. Silly lawyer asking legal questions, Scotty Sonardi, says Alexis. I mean, come on. Really? This is insane. If you're not outraged, you probably should be. If you're not worried for yourself, you probably should be. Because Karen Reed, again, I don't give a shit whether you like her or not, but she was well educated. She had a high paying job at a financial firm for 15 freaking years or 20 years. She was dating this man who was a police officer who was parenting his brother's children because the brother and the wife died. And she was helping to take care of those children. And yeah, she and John got in some weird fights. I mean, who hasn't said things they'd like to take back, right? When they're drunk or whatever. She owes $5 million in legal fees and they are not done with her. This is crazy. Okay. You, Kathy Smith, we should care. This could happen to any of us. The investigation was terrible. Witnesses weren't honest, and it feels like jurors didn't give much thought to the evidence. I'm done. I mean, I'm done here. That's exactly it. You should be worried. You should be worried because we cannot control every person that gets on the jury. You follow the process to the best of your ability. It's not, you don't select a jury so much as you attempt to swat away the jurors that the other side wants, right? You try to strategically axe them so that maybe you end up with somebody who's you think is a little more favorable to your side. But are you kidding me with this? This is insane. Yes, and those poor kids did lose both sets of parents, and that's just, it's horrible. And then they lost John O'Keefe, who was taking care of them, and then they lost Karen Reed, who was also helping to take care of them. So yeah. Okay, so let's talk about an expert that I think that anybody who ever saw any amount of his testimony on anything would really like, and I mean, the ARCA people, from what I understand, were highly credible, very likable. Let me see. This is the shade clip. Yes. Okay. Oh no. Don't do the spinny wheel thing. Don't do the spinny wheel thing. There it is. Let me see if I can go to this one. I mean, we should be worried, you guys. We should be worried. Should care. We should care.
Found one pellet in his body, so that's 8. But we know the manufacturer puts 9. When I went to the crime scene in October 19 of 2021, the 9th buckshot pellet was in the window frame.
Oh my God.
How do you know that was the 9th buckshot pellet that went through? Did you analyze it?
That's what he just said.
Well,
did you analyze it?
I didn't analyze it,
Okay.
but
Are you assuming?
Not allowing him to answer the question. He said, I didn't analyze it, but, and then he interrupted him.
Well, I'm to answer.
I didn't hear the question.
He did say but.
Oh, so the window got shot, right? Most of the pellets went through the window. Some of the pellets went through the little white parts of the window. There was one pellet that SLED didn't recover, and the reason is it was under kind of the lip. You know how where you pick up on a window, there's a thing where you put your fingers. It was under that, but still there. So you have a pattern of buckshot pellets like this big. And so you got 9 holes basically, or 8, because there's one pellet left in the victim, right? So
How many?
9 minus the 1, so you have 8. There are 8 holes in that window. In my world, that's a very high probability that those are the pellets that came from the buckshot that injured Paul Murdoch.
Okay, so they are trying to discredit him because out of 9 pellets, only 8 were recovered at that point. I mean, okay. Okay. I guess that makes it not credible. Let's look at hang on. We're going to look at Kenny Kinsey, who is maybe my favorite witness of all time. A credible witness using clear language. Yeah, Kathy Smith. So we debated about whether we were going to talk about the juror or the judge's demeanor and the effect that has on jurors. But we couldn't find, like, if you watch Judge Canoni during hearings, you can see how she is towards the lawyers, but you don't see that when the jury is in the room. She's just polite. I guess we looked for that and didn't find something that we felt like would really demonstrate that. But here, let's look at Kenny Kinsey.
And he slowly walked toward the door. Okay, and what does the shooter do? The shooter's coming in the door. And then what does the shooter do? He shoots Paul in the back of the head after he passes him. Okay, and then shoots Paul in the back of the head like this, and where does the blood spatter go? The blood spatter, the pellet defects, and one that I didn't know about that the expert collected was in the door frame at the top of the door.
Without question, that was a standout moment in this trial. Curious, Dr. Kinsey, whose idea was it to do the demonstration in the doorway?
I have to give full credit to Mr. Allen Wilson.
So Dr. Kenny Kinsey, everybody loves him. You have to love him. If you want to see a person testify in a trial that just is, I don't know, he's everything, right? He has like this 30-year career in law enforcement. He goes and gets a PhD, and then he went and did something else, you guys. He went and did something else. Here it is. He did something else. Check it out. I keep losing them. Here we go. Yep. Kenny Kinsey became a private investigator. He has his own private investigation service now in South Carolina. And I would like to go and work for him immediately. Yes, Henry, I hear you. So he is using his investigative skills and law enforcement background and connections for the grieving families of other victims. This private practice gives me an opportunity to concentrate on a handful of cases instead of a full docket with hundreds of cases. I can give more one-on-one time with my clients while still working in conjunction with law enforcement. When it comes to investigative and crime scene work, Kinsey stresses he puts the facts, honesty, and integrity first instead of simply giving people the outcome they expect or want to see. We always try to uphold our morals and integrity. We don't make the evidence, we make the evidence easy to understand. And like myself, he does not hire he does not plan on doing divorce cases or other personal matters. I don't either, so I get that completely because I just was not put on this earth to do that, in my opinion. So yes, isn't that great? He's fantastic. He is fantastic. I love him so much. I think he's an amazing witness. And if you want to see how somebody should testify and do so respectively and not argumentatively and answer both questions thoughtfully and go through a very impossible to reenact situation, you should go back and watch the testimony of Kenny Kinsey in in the Alec Murdaugh trial. I mean, it's just absolutely amazing. So I think he's probably a better PI than I am because he's got all the law enforcement stuff on his side, whereas, you know, I've got curiosity and a legal education and a lot of observational skills, I guess. So I have been talking to you guys for months now about cell phone data and car data and all of the things, right? And so, yes, Barry Adams, PI can be called as a witness, expert or otherwise, if their client wants to call them. I imagine the state can't because of privilege. So yeah, so the reason why attorneys hire investigators and say, hey, go talk to this witness is so that there's a layer of insulation between the attorney and the witness. And if necessary, the investigator can be called to the stand to say, this is what I found, this is my conversation, this is whatever. And the attorney can never be accused of influencing a witness. And yeah, some investigators are experts. I don't happen to be one. I'm not sure what I would get qualified for, but yes, they do testify and can. And no, I have not ever had to. But I wanted to show you guys this that I found today. Because I feel like it gives credence to what I've been telling you over and over and over. Law enforcement agencies can extract data from the infotainment center or infotainment systems of thousands of different car models. They are a valuable source of information for the investigation of law enforcement agencies. Hello? You guys, look at this right here. The ability to gather piles of evidence on a potential crime from an automobile, sometimes more than can be obtained from a smartphone. More than a smartphone and less well secured is something that immigration and border cops have increasingly latched onto in 2022, Forbes reports. Court documents and government contracting records show the agencies tasked with monitoring the Mexican border have spent record sums on car hacking tools while talking up the extraordinary amount of valuable evidence that can be reaped from on-board computers. New cars are surveillance on wheels, sending sensitive passenger data to car makers and police. Cars also store enormous amounts of passenger data on board where police can extract it using specialized tools. We estimate that law enforcement agencies could have accessed car data hundreds of thousands of times in 2020. That's 5 years ago. 5 years ago. Constitutional loopholes allow access to most data on cars without a warrant. Now, I did not get a chance to check and see if, as of 2025, there was a warrant requirement today because I forgot. So just the caveat that this was in 2020, that there were constitutional loopholes which allow access to most data on cars without a warrant. Police can access information from car-connected phones and online accounts without the warrant typically required. So that's something I want to look into. But hi. Yes, exactly, Kathy Smith. Exactly. Infotainment is going to get you. You guys, here's something else. Here's another one I wanted to share with you. Good night, Mads. Thanks for joining us. We really appreciate you. So in both Alec Murdaugh's and Karen Reed's trial, they had a really hard time with the infotainment data. But here, look at this real quick. I know this is not the from the perspective of the jury, but federal agents with the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, ATF, are now adding car infotainment centers to search warrants to seek evidence in criminal cases. When you connect your phone to a car's entertainment system, it stores all of your data and never erases it. Even if you have it reset, the memory inside the unit continues to store your data as it just deletes references to the information. Vehicle forensics companies such as Burla specialize in dumping the entirety of the data stored in the memory of the vehicle's infotainment system. Does anybody have feelings on that? No? Okay. Okay. I have feelings about that. My personal opinion advice to you is if you rent a car, don't ever, ever connect your phone to that car. Ever. Ever. Yeah. I mean, people don't understand the kind of information they're giving away on the daily and just how much access law enforcement has to it. Let me go back to my outline. So, both cases had difficulty getting the infotainment or location data, key cycles, whatever you have it, from the manufacturers. Alec Murdaugh had a Chevy Suburban, and that Suburbans use OnStar. I had one, and Karen Reed has that Lexus, right? So because the infotainment data was difficult to understand, it appears that in the absence of understanding, Juror Ronnie instead chose to consider the data as credible evidence. So he used part of what could be taken. They weren't able to get everything. There were only the starts and stops of key cycling. The FBI couldn't unlock Murdaugh's Suburban information, and then GMC provided it partway through the trial. It defies common sense because if you Google chip off car data, there are firms all over the country that do that. It's just nuts, right? So what's happening is all this information is being collected on you. The juries are not understanding the interpretation in a lot of ways, or they zone out on it, and or the government can't get the information they need. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. Let's look at this from Murdaugh, what I think was one of the biggest moments of the trial. For me personally, it stuck out in my head more than any other. Let's see. It's where Creighton is talking to Alec. I know that one. So it's this one. All right.
The murders. New information from General Motors allowed prosecutors to know the location, times, and speed of Murdaugh's vehicle on the night Maggie and Paul were murdered. Moments after the two were killed, Rudofsky says Murdaugh's car left the property, and within seconds, the car slowly drove by an area where Maggie's cell phone would later be found, and then that vehicle sped up. Take a listen.
In the grayish white looking box, you can still see the little circle where it says Maggie Murdaugh's phone location, and right under it's where the pinpoint's going to be. It's going to be 908.36, 42 miles an hour.
Next slide, 25. Slide 25.
The upper halfway portion of that box, you're going to see the circle again, the orange circle. That's me, Maggie Murdaugh's phone. And at 908.42, we have the Suburban traveling approximately 45 miles an hour.
After passing that location, does the defendant's vehicle start to accelerate?
It does.
Rudofsky says that the data tracked Murdaugh to his parents' house that night.
Okay, so I understand that not everyone wants to watch trials the way that a lot of us watch trials. And a lot of times I can only, Henry, not right now, please. A lot of times I can only kind of have it on in the background. I can't be paying attention to every single minute because I would get even less done with the distraction of it than I do on a regular daily basis. But this stuff is relevant and it's important. And, you know, DNA was a big deal when it first came on the crime scene, if you will. This is DNA. This is DNA. This is how you will be convicted. The information on your phone, on your searches, on your car. The expert in the Monica Simonelli case that Trial TV Live was covering, he had that data, that geolocation data. He was a cop that wrote some software that was so good. LexisNexis, the giant search legal database, bought it. And he's connecting their phones and their what they think is encrypted and it's not, and the bank records, and oh my God, this is nuts, right? But it can be used against you too. So this is what we need to be worried about. This is what we need to be paying attention to, in my opinion. Hey, Laura, thank you. Hi, so good to see you. I hope you're feeling well. I don't know. These are the things I find to be outrageous, and so I'm bringing them to your attention because I am not a lawyer, you know. So this is here. Let's look at this one. Hold on 1 second. We're gonna have to work on the way that stuff presents, right? Because like I line it up before the stream, and technically I should be able to just click right through, and it doesn't show up that way on my screen. Let's see, is this one? Nope.
To life and start showing a lot of steps.
I do agree with that.
What were you doing?
I was getting ready to go to my mom's house.
Getting ready to go? I thought you took a shower already. You were just laying down on the couch. What all you need to do to get ready to go to your mom's house?
I mean, there wasn't anything to get ready in that aspect, but I was getting ready to go. I was preparing to leave.
Doing what?
I don't know if I got up, went to the bathroom. I don't know. I can't tell you exactly what I was doing.
That's far more steps in a shorter time period than any time prior, as you've seen from the testimony in this case. So what were you so busy doing?
That's
going to the bathroom?
No, I don't think that I
Did you get on a treadmill?
Went to the bathroom. No, I didn't get on a treadmill.
Okay, so just to put this in context for you guys, if you didn't see this, so that is the prosecutor Creighton Waters, and that is the defendant Alec Murdaugh, and Creighton has Alec's iPhone health data. So if you do not know, iPhones come turned on with a health app, and it'll track your steps and how fast you're going and all this stuff, right? I go in, I turn everything off. I don't need to know how many steps I'm not taking per day, but they got this information from Alec's phone. And this was news to me. I did not know that iPhones and that the extractions of the phones, I had no idea. It could tell you how many steps you were taking, like in a certain period of time, and how that compared to how you moved earlier. So when Creighton says, "What were you doing?" he's referring to 283 steps that Alec took in a very short amount of time. So when he says, "Did you get on the treadmill?" and Alec is tripping over himself to try to explain what he was doing that caused him to take these 283 steps in such a fast
jog in place.
Nope, I didn't jog in
jumping
place.
jacks.
No, sir, I did not do jumping jacks.
What were you doing, Mr. Murdaugh, for those 4 minutes?
Preparing to leave for my mom's house.
What? What does that mean? I mean, you're in the front room on that couch where you say you laid down. The Suburban's just right outside. What all are you doing?
I don't know if I got up and went to my room, went to the gun room, went back in the.
Doing what? You've been so clear in your new story about everything. What were you doing during these 4 minutes?
I disagree with your assertion about every detail. I don't recall. I know that I was getting up and I was leaving. I was going to check on my mom. But specifically what I was doing, I don't know.
283 steps in a very short amount of time. More than he had moved all day long, faster than he moved anywhere else. They were also able to track his vehicle speed going back and forth between his house and his mom's house, and how he normally would travel those backcountry roads at like 45 miles an hour. But in order to make his time frame work, he was driving at 75 miles per hour that night. Like, you guys. Yes, the steps. What an investigation is right, Kathy Smith. Yeah, Barry Adams, he went and got himself some steps and some guns and some chickens out of Bubba's mouth, you know? It's just crazy. It's just crazy. In my opinion. It's my opinion. I'm sharing with you guys the things that I think are important because it could happen to you, right? It could happen to someone you care about. Conversely, you could be the victim. So it's not enough to just think, well, I don't like that judge or I don't like that lawyer. What if you are a juror? Or what if you are having a jury selected because you are on trial? And these are the presentations that the attorneys are making. This is the information that's being provided you. And we're going to talk about jury instructions in a separate video, because understanding what reasonable doubt is turns out to be really freaking hard. Like, really hard. Which is scary. Because we saw Ronnie. Right? We saw Ronnie. And so it's just, I'm tripping over my words. All right, let's talk about, I think I probably skipped something, but I'm not sure where I lost myself. But here we go. Okay, thank you, Alexis. So, defendant's testimony. I want to know, if you are on a jury, will you please tell me, do you want to hear the defendant testify? And if they don't, can you do what you're supposed to do and not hold it against them? Like, are you okay? They don't have to do anything. They don't have to do anything. They do not have to testify. If they don't testify, is that going to prejudice the defendant in your eyes? Do you understand that they don't have to say a word? And that's okay. Just curious. Let me know. Let me know. I'm looking for the right. This is going to drive me crazy. Alexis, we're going to have to figure this out going forward, because I thought I had them all in order and now they're not. Now they're not doing what I intended them to do. Let me go back here and try. See, when I go here and I open it, right? I still have to come back to it in StreamYard, and StreamYard just wants to take everything and move it to where I don't understand. Sorry, guys. I'm trying. I'm trying. I think it's this one. Nope. I'm so sorry. It's this one. Okay. I have got to figure out a better way to do this. All right, here we go.
Very abnormal. I've never been a juror before, and I've never sat through trial before, but I did know that the defendant taking the stand was very abnormal. I wouldn't say that at that point that sealed the deal or anything. I just took what he said. I tried to weigh it both ways. I tried to see if what he was saying and if it was the truth made sense, then that would make sense. But then I ran it the other way, and if what he was saying just didn't add up, then it didn't add up. So I tried to do that with each piece of evidence. I tried to run it both ways as to if it was true and if it wasn't true, if I could rely on it or if I couldn't. And then which one made more sense and which one, you know, kind of how they were saying about the circumstantial evidence, did it all point to the same conclusion? You know, which one of these, whether it was the truth or whether it wasn't and wasn't reliable, which one points to the conclusion and fits the story better?
How important was Dr. Kinsey's testimony?
He talked about a lot and he's very knowledgeable. I would say that he was, you know, a very big part of the case, as well as, you know, a majority of the team. I found it very interesting, some of the things that he talked about, just because it was things that I was interested in. I think it was very interesting as to how he walked through the crime scene, things that he noticed, things that he really, you know, dug into, and things that really caught his eye. But, you know, whether he was extremely, you know, the biggest part of the case or something like that, I think that he was extremely important and definitely gave us a lot of good information.
Okay, so he didn't discount Kenny Kinsey's expert testimony. He thought it was actually really good, which is really important because it was really good, in my opinion, and I think a lot of other people's opinions too. So we see James and we see Ronnie, and I know for a fact that I would way rather have James on my jury. Barry Adams, to answer your question, which is, I have to remember it's on the state to prove a positive. They need to prove they did do something, and it's not the defense's job to prove a negative that they did not do something. So if you take a piece of paper like this is supposed to be the state's case, right? In its entirety, like it should be solid like this. If the defense can poke holes in that, that's reasonable doubt. That's the easiest way I can explain it to you. The Constitution doesn't explain it that easily. The law from the Constitution doesn't explain it that easily. I know, because I read a case today that made my head hurt. It traumatized me. I felt like I was back in school. No, I'm just kidding. It was hot. It was a lot though. So here we have Karen Reed did not testify on her behalf, on her own behalf. And I don't know if anybody has said anything about that. Okay, hold on. Here's another juror that we have from Alex's case. 1, 2, 3, 4, and yeah, I'm so sorry about my my tech skills. I can promise you we spent all day working on this. I hear you, sir. And I still don't understand why it does not want to cooperate for me.
2 not guilty, 1 not sure, and 9 guilty.
What was your vote?
Guilty.
From the start?
Yes.
Moyer says it didn't take long to get everyone on the same page.
We started deliberating, going through the evidence. Everybody was pretty much talking. And about 45 minutes later, after all our deliberating, we figured it out.
So it took basically 45 minutes for you guys to come to a decision?
Probably about 45, maybe an hour.
That's really fast.
Yeah, the evidence was clear.
He says it was this piece of video featuring.
Okay, I got that out of order, but 45 minutes they took to find him guilty. 45 minutes. That means that somebody presented a very, very clear case and that the jury understood exactly what their job was, in my opinion. The Karen Reed jury was out for days and ended up hung at the end. So there was a mistrial, or they were, yeah. So I just, I just whoops, I'm so sorry. I forgot to share it. Just was having my thought. This is other members of the jury, and you will notice that they decided they decided to dress like each other. I don't know. It's very cute though. Let's see. Hold on. There we go. Got it.
You, Amy? No. He didn't help himself. No. No.
If I was him, I don't think I would have, but I think that he believes that he's so convincing that he felt like that was his, last resort.
The financial crimes, when the state introduced all of that evidence about the past financial crimes and the money he'd stolen from clients, the money he'd stolen from.
So that's another issue, right? Is there are side issues in both of these cases. And in Alec Murdaugh's, all the side stuff was the financial crimes that the judge let in. And it was a lot. Like, it was kind of a trial within a trial. But at the same time, I feel like it was really important because it gave context to everything that Alec Murdaugh had done. And the prosecution probably would have won without it, just based on all the other evidence. But I feel like that just probably sealed the deal. So, I think that when we see defendants take the stand on to testify for themselves, I don't think it ends well. It rarely ends well. I know that sometimes people do and it helps them, but I also think that people come in with bias to begin with. And even though they say they can be fair and unbiased, I'm not sure it ever happens that way. I just don't know. But I think what is really important to take away here is, despite my sort of jittery presentation of everything, is that as somebody who works on defense teams, you can put the most credible, articulate, educated experts up there, and they will completely discredit that. And so stuff that you think is going to be a really big deal isn't, and stuff you don't think is anything could be. It's just crazy. And I think one of the things that we get wrong about juries, or that I think lawyers get wrong about jurors and juries today, is they impute knowledge. In other words, they think that jurors, they're sort of assuming a pre-social media level of education. So we now know that lots and lots of people don't go all the way through the 12th grade in the United States and graduate high school. Newspapers were written to like a 6th grade education, or maybe even before that. Lawyers use words, and jury instructions use words that people don't understand. And if you don't believe me, go back and listen to Ronnie's word salad, because he doesn't understand. He's just spitting out words. And lawyers will use words and assume that everyone understands what they mean, and they don't. And I think there's a big disconnect also between jurors who, we have had 18-year-olds, 19-year-olds on our juries. I don't know how I feel. I mean, obviously they're allowed to be, and that's fine. But also, you have James on one hand, who is a young man who is clearly intelligent, and you have Ronnie on the other hand, who thinks he's intelligent. I could be Karen Reed. Like, I could be sitting there and having this done to me. And it's just, I don't know, you guys, that's just crazy. Okay, guys. Kathy Smith, you're too kind. I appreciate you so much. So yeah, I wanted to just sort of take a look at through the jurors' interviews at what's where these two areas of comparison, where areas of comparison was for each of these cases. You know, we looked for what we could find that we could sort of compare side by side. And Alec Murdaugh was everyone thought he was rich. Turns out he was stealing, so he wasn't so rich. But, you know, this prominent attorney in the Low Country in South Carolina, he was like 5th generation attorney. His dad or his granddad or somebody had been the Solicitor General, which means the big dog in charge of things. Dick Harpootlian was his defense attorney. He's a senator. You know, so like he thought he had it in the bag because he'd had all of Colleton County in the bag for so long. He's a personal injury attorney, and they'd made a lot of money, and his family history is really interesting. And there's tons and tons and tons of content out there on Alec Murdaugh, as there is on Karen Read. But what I just kind of wanted to point out is that when these juror interviews do come out, listen to them or pay attention to them, because I think the information that we get from them is really important. And just as much as I am concerned about becoming a victim of crime, I'm also concerned about becoming a victim of law enforcement or prosecution, right? They have, as I say over and over again, prosecution's got all the power. Alexis, I lost the clip from Peter Tragos's video, and I'm wondering if I can find that one really quick, because you know, where he goes, I don't know what that means. I'd like to find that one again. It's somewhere in here, I know. And I will definitely work on, we went through this all, you guys, so I'm so sorry again that my presentation is less than stellar here. We did try. Is this it? No, he did the, hold on. Is this one? No, I'm looking for the one from, did we take that out? That's Murdaugh. Car data. I lost it. I lost Ronnie, but that's okay. But even Peter Tragos, who was going through, he's the lawyer, you know, on YouTube. He's here in Clearwater, Florida. He is, you know, has a huge channel. He is the one that did, that sat through this entire interview with Turtle Boy and Ronnie, and he found, he said, after reviewing a clip of Ronnie's testimony, he's like, I have no idea what that even means. So it's interesting. We should be concerned about all of these factors. And you ask us how we pick a jury, and it's almost, unless they self-select them out of there. I mean, somewhere all these attorneys for Karen Read and the prosecution for Karen Read agreed to let Ronnie be a juror, or didn't find cause to get rid of him. If Ronnie was a juror in my case, I would be very, very, very upset. If, on the other hand, we do know that there were some very smart people on Karen Read's jury. But in order to learn about that, you'll have to watch the video I'm going to record. So there's going to be one more piece about reasonable doubt, and something that everyone seems to take for granted that they understand, but it turns out maybe not so much. I'm going to record that and upload it for you. Please like and subscribe if you haven't. Go over to Patreon and become a free member so you can come to the Kalief watch party that I'm hosting next Wednesday at 7:15 p.m. I believe that Tanika is coming back next Saturday. A lot of my regulars are not here. They are missing from the chat. So I can't ask Tanika, she's not here, but we discussed her coming back next week, and the thing we were going to talk about is death penalty juries. And so that should be very interesting. I know she's got questions. Hopefully I've got some answers for her. In particular, we're going to look at Florida death penalty juries. And what else? What else am I missing? I'm missing something else. I know I am. Thank you so much for joining me. Again, I'll keep working on my tech skills. We practice, but you know, things happen. Cats bite you while you're trying to live stream. Yeah, please like and subscribe if you haven't already. If you like my videos, I hope you'll come back Saturday nights at 7:15 Eastern and share with friends or family. Thank you so much, you guys. I hope you have a really good rest of your weekend.
Sunshine State, where secrets hide. In Tampa Street, she seeks out lies. With a sharp eye, she'll reveal the truth. Justice calls and she pursues. From county jails to hallowed courts, she finds truth where they distort. Fearless heart and mind so keen, Sam unravels tangled seams. The truth is buried deep in files. Fairness is what they try to hide, but Sam prevails. She's got your back. With grit and grace, she never lacks. Uncover lies and play no games. From jail